All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Thank you all. Oh, the Friday recorded audience is my favorite. So wonderful to have you all stumbling in. And it is an overstuffed show, I must tell you. We have so much here. I don't know that we're going to get it all in, frankly. What? I don't know. I'm just saying. I will share with you the latest in Iran. Breaking news out of the Pentagon. Breaking news out of the world of Donald Trump, not related to Iran. He likes to make announcements and likes to do a lot of business that has nothing to do with the 5-alarm fire that is the Middle East. We'll get to that. I have a special request visit today with Adam James. Yeah, he is the brilliant analyst when it comes to Donald Trump's mental acuity and physical state. And he breaks it down for you in a lengthy interview. And so those who have asked for some of these interviews to be a bit longer, you will delight, enjoy, and rejoice in the fact that Adam will visit with us for quite some time today. That and Michael Shure and Mo Kelly. In hour 2, we will talk about what's gone on this week. And I'll also give you a dose of Friday Fabulous Florida, which is our segment that has survived from our old radio show. And we're loath to give it the Christy Nome treatment and take it to the rock pile. And so it remains. There is breaking news this morning. There is. Chuck Norris has died. The action hero and star of Walker, Texas Ranger. 86 years old. Martial artist. You did all those martial arts films. You're into those martial arts type thing. I don't know. I feel like
Chuck
Walker
Norris
was a little before your time, Albert, or did you?
No, he was he was the original meme for my millennials. Like,
oh, really?
Chuck Norris could do anything in our eyes. So,
oh wow,
we idolized him very much.
He had that kind of Lone Star justice, you know. Walker, Texas Ranger. The old school moral code. And that's not a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of roundhouse kicks.
I used to watch the reruns on Spike TV of Walker, Texas Ranger. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Statement from the family to the world. He was a martial artist, actor, and a symbol of strength. To us, he was a devoted husband, a loving father and grandfather, an incredible brother, and the heart of our family.
Wow,
he lived his life with faith, purpose, and please don't interrupt me when I'm reading a statement from the family.
I was just going to say he had a super hairy chest. That's all.
That, especially if you're going to interrupt with a comment like that. He lived his life with faith, purpose, and an unwavering commitment to the people he loved. Best known for 9 seasons as Texas Ranger Sergeant Cordell Walker, the steely-eyed former Marine who dispensed Lone Star justice with roundhouse kicks and old-school moral codes. Still big on syndicated television. He was a contemporary, more or less, of Bruce Lee, wasn't he? I feel like they were together in The Way of the Dragon, right?
That's correct. Yeah, and he was I think he was a legitimate fighter too. He has a career for a short time. But
that's right. I mean, this is an important distinction because he wasn't just, a cinema star and actor in that way who got famous through martial arts in the movies but didn't really have any cred. He had cred. He was a conservative man. He was a right-winger,
Stan Pollock, our favorite CPA, started karate in 1970 at the Chuck Norris Karate Studio in Sherman Oaks.
Wow, very well done.
Stan got to red belt with him and the first black belt with one of his black belts. Wow.
If you need a CPA who can deliver a roundhouse kick when you need it delivered, that is Stan Pollock, our favorite CPA, apparently. Who knew? And then there is this other breaking news. Again, this is not related to the war. I'll give you some news on the war in a moment. CBS News is shuttering its storied radio news service after nearly a century. It's the end of an era. CBS News Radio, providing material to an estimated 700 stations across the country, they say, is known best for its top-of-the-hour news roundups, and it is going away.
Good day, sir.
Yeah, they've had enough.
Sayonara, sucker.
What happens to the big KCBS radio in the Bay Area where a lot of our listeners get their news?
So a lot of the stations aren't owned by CBS.
I see.
But their top and bottom of the hour news service is CBS News, and that goes away, I believe.
Yeah. It was a necessary decision, not an easy one, says CBS News editor-in-chief Barry Weiss. And President Tom Sabrowski. Along with newspapers, radio was the dominant force in how Americans got their news from the 20s through the 40s, with Americans listening to the radio through the FDR years. You'll remember the fireside chats they used to do. And radio, not as big a force in modern society. The world of online news is much, much bigger. Audio podcasts are bigger. All these things have sort of helped nudge radio out of relevance. I'm not saying that there isn't still relevance in radio. Many of my friends are in radio. I'm at KFI Radio. But the reality is that there's been an attenuation of the audience. There's been they're just spread out of so many gaming and all those other ways I mentioned. So CBS Radio, no more. And Chuck Norris, actor, action star, Walker, Texas Rangers star, no more as well. He passes away at 86.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I did get an email I wanted to pass along to you.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
If you want to reach us on the show, you can. It's the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. And this was from Coachella Valley Coffee. Yeah, Cliff at Coachella Valley Coffee sent me this picture. Now, in this picture, there are a lot of pharmaceuticals, and these are medicines, and also you'll see a computer in the middle. And the reason for that is that you, the people who make up the online universe of orders for Coachella Valley Coffee, which is such a terrific coffee. It's the greatest coffee I've ever tasted. I was drinking it before they were on the show. You, through your online orders, helped produce monies that were sent to this community. Kim, where is do you have it? Do you have it here? I'll read the email if you do.
I have it right here. There it is. This is an email from Cliff at Coachella Valley Coffee. Customers helped make this happen. We got a nice email, he writes, a few weeks ago from our farmer in El Salvador. With the help of our online customers, this is the laptop we were able to buy for the doctor and the medications that Coachella Valley Coffee purchased for this pharmacy in El Salvador.
Yeah,
and that's
so
because
it's
of
the
you.
way you see that, you see the way they work, you see how they work, you see the great coffee they produce, but you also see the fruits of your orders. So if you order through Coachella Valley Coffee, you order the tea, the spices, or the most magnificent coffee, the monies go to many of these communities that need your help. So again, pharmaceuticals, that laptop computer makes a huge difference, and I enjoy Coachella Valley Coffee, as do you. All organically and ethically sourced from women-owned farms. So special to get that news from Cliff. If you want to get anything there, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com, order it and use our discount code MARKT. You'll get 10% off.
Put that coffee down.
CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. So grateful for our connection with them and that it's such a success for the communities they serve, as well as you.
Mark Thompson Show.
All right, thank you for being here. Smash the like button, all that stuff. Let's get quickly to Iran. And the reality is that it's a mess. And it's a mess that apparently is going to require additional troops. The statements from the president speak to the need for more money and more people to do what he wants to do. Specifically, he wants to, it's suggested, get to Karg Island with an American presence that would change the balance of power there. This is how the news broke today. Play me the cut 6.
According to 4 sources with knowledge of the issue, the Trump administration considering plans to occupy or blockade Iran's Karg Island to pressure Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. That story dropping about 20 minutes ago.
Well, look, we did have the door opening to that yesterday. The Treasury Secretary hinting at, saying potentially remains to be seen whether or not Karg Island would become a U.S. asset. The president has spoke about the fact that they could take it over, and there is this amphibious assault ship heading towards the Middle East. These type of Marines, they are trained for operations like this.
So any attempt to physically occupy Karg Island would be a high-risk move. American forces would be exposed to drone attacks, to rocket fire. We talked a bit about this yesterday. The island, I mean, it's a confined space. It's 20 square kilometers, about 8 square miles. It's 16 miles from the Iranian city of Bushehr, and it's at the northern end of the Gulf. It exports, Karg Island, the terminal there, exports about 90% of the Iranian oil and supplies by pipes nearby offshore fields. So it's a center, you could even say the nucleus of the Iranian oil business. But as I say, it's a high-wire act to make it happen. It is an attempt, it would seem to me, to kind of reverse what is the leverage that they clearly have gained, the Iranians, through the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which is perhaps the most anticipated leverage you could possibly have, and yet this administration seems utterly flummoxed by the whole thing. Now, Iran is heavily dependent for the revenue they have on fossil fuels. So it would be a key strategic asset that the Americans could take. Meantime, Donald Trump is smack-talking NATO. He wrote today on social media, without the USA, NATO is a paper tiger. He wrote it in capital letters. They didn't want to join the fight to stop a nuclear-powered Iran. Now that fight is militarily won with very little danger for them. They complain about the high oil prices, but they're forced to pay, but don't want to help open the Strait of Hormuz, a simple military maneuver that is the single reason for the high oil prices. So easy for them to do, with so little risk. Cowards in capital letters, and we will remember in capital letters. Again, the Pentagon's already deployed the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit. It's a rapid response force of about 2,200 Marines. Military officials not saying what the mission is, but it would be that kind of deployment that would involve this sort of mission. So, look, there is contradictory information coming from the Israelis and the Americans about their intentions in the war. You know, the plans appear to change on an hourly basis. Sometimes we're there for the people, sometimes we're there for the nuclear material. The one thing I would say to you is that what I mentioned to you initially, you're now seeing written about more and more, and that is simply, you can't just go in and get the nuclear fissile material with some, small crew of SEAL team guys led by Tom Cruise. That's just not the way this works. The Iranians know you want the fissile material. They know you want this nuclear material. And it's not just held in one place. And assuming your intelligence is right and you know the multiple places it's held, probably 3 places, you need to go in with a force that is strong enough to get in and handle this incredibly sensitive and fragile material and get out cleanly. And they would need support from traditional troops for the reasons I mentioned. The Iranians are protecting these assets, these nuclear assets. You'd need air cover as well. So this is a big operation you're looking at. And the last thing I'll say, and this is sort of, you'd think implied, but I guess it needs to be stated because there's all of this, who knew? I didn't know. They've never done it before. They hit the Gulf countries, these other Gulf countries. Well, then it should be stated that the removal of nuclear material from Iran is a scientifically difficult mission, meaning if the material gets out in any way, you have a radioactive leak of some kind. You have the attendant problems. If you have 2 canisters that are too close together, there can be a nuclear reaction, not like a mushroom cloud reaction, but other kinds of reaction that can release a lot of radioactivity. So this is an extremely difficult mission to pull off. And it's clearly one the Americans want to have pulled off cleanly.
But you can't just leave it there, right? Because
Exactly.
then the bad actors could come and take this enriched uranium, and you can't have that.
Exactly.
So what do you do? It's like it's a horrible situation.
Yeah, it's true. The U.S. Central Command is saying that roughly 50,000 U.S. troops are already in the Middle East as part of this war with Iran. Officials saying that the unit being sent to the Middle East without revealing exactly what it will be deployed or what it will be used for remains on what is still a secret mission. Pentagon weighing sending more troops to the Middle East as stated. And of course, the request for $200 billion more for the Pentagon and the war effort. Here is Donald Trump talking about that Pentagon money, cut 11. This is at his, in the Oval. Here we go.
What we're asking for a lot of reasons beyond even what we're talking about in Iran. This is a very volatile world, and the military equipment, the power of some of this weaponry is unthinkable. You don't even want to know about it. Oh, you could end this thing in 2 seconds if you wanted to, but we are being very judicious. What we want to do, don't forget, Biden gave away, I rebuilt the military my first term. Biden gave away so stupidly to Afghanistan a lot. He didn't want to move it. He was too lazy, too stupid to move it. But it was a very small amount. It was a lot, but it was very small relative to what I purchased and what I built. We want to have vast amounts of ammunition, which we have right now. We have a lot of ammunition, but it was taken down by giving so much to Ukraine. They gave so much. Biden gave $350 billion worth of cash and military equipment to Ukraine, and he didn't rebuild anything. Fortunately, we have a lot. We have a tremendous, unlimited supply of what you'd call middle and upper middle armaments and military equipment, munitions, armaments, but munitions in particular. At the high end, we have a lot, but we're preserving it. We don't really need it, but we're building. Our manufacturers of military equipment are building at a level they've never seen before. They've never done before. Pete's in charge of it with all of us, really. But Pete's been very strong on it. The general and Pete, myself, the whole group. And Raytheon is building 4 factories. Lockheed is building 5 or 6 factories, and they're building them fast.
Yeah, they'll be all done in a couple hours, I'm told. Okay, very good. Thank you. That's the word from Donald Trump from inside the Oval. He mentioned Pete Hegseth. I will just mention that we'll get into a whole chunk of Pete Hegseth after the top of the hour when the boys come through, Michael and Mo, because Pete Hegseth has become a centerpiece of this story. His make-believe that he spins at his Pentagon briefings, where the general gives you the X's and O's and Pete gives you the fervent zeal of a true believer while he makes up the facts. So all of that is to come in just a few minutes as we get into hour two. Also to come, Tulsi Gabbard gets rotisseried. We'll revisit that. And Donald Trump, in the middle of all of this, makes a pronouncement that has nothing to do with anything you care about. And yet it is a huge executive order that was accompanied by all kinds of pomp and circumstance. I'll have that after the top of the hour as well. Smash the like button if you would.
Smash
Helps
it
us
with
in
your
the world of
iron
YouTube.
rod.
I know it's weird. I also got a couple of very nice notes, some new Patreon members. We are a Patreon and PayPal dependent show. We're independent media, and for that reason, we need Patreon and PayPal support. And you guys have been great. And I really want to thank you on PayPal and Patreon. Somebody asked, how do I increase my contributions on Patreon? I'm having trouble on the app. I don't know. It should allow you to do it, but if not, you may have to, cancel your first one and come in at a higher number. And thank you so much for even asking that question. I say Gigi Mo just gave us, became a $5 member there on Patreon. A big shout out to Gigi Mo. And there's more. And on PayPal as well. So we'll get to more of that probably next week. But I just wanted to really acknowledge the way in which you guys have stepped up and supported this show. We're independent media and we need it. Without you, we go away. So thank you. There's a $25 contribution from my favorite CPA, Stan Pollock, CPA. In memory of my first karate teacher, rest in peace, Chuck Norris. Yeah. Thank you, Stan Pollock.
Big shout out.
Yeah. Big shout out to you. Romanian Animal Rescue with a $20 super sticker.
Big shout out.
Love Romanian Animal Rescue. Been with us for a while, and they do great work. Check them out. Albert, I have to do Florida. So if you're ready, I will. I'll turn to Florida in my hymnal if I can find it. Where did Kim put it? I am having trouble finding anything, Kim.
I've highlighted it in blue. Here
yeah.
we
I
go.
blame you.
Well,
Page 12.
I see it. Thank you. Yeah, it's right here.
There
All
we go.
right, let's do it. This is a segment left over from our radio show. We're loath to get rid of it, and it's a nice little palate cleanser that we put in between courses as America becomes unraveled. So why not take a little diversion? This is Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
So we go. Video showing a suspect caught during a paddleboard pursuit in Florida.
What?
I know. Seems incredible. It's how they do it. The suspect, according to the sheriff's office, was on the move. The footage released by the Volusia Sheriff's Office shows the suspect speaking with authorities before he suddenly runs off. He did the old chat with authorities and then book. Sometimes you can get away with it.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
The video shows the suspect being brought back to a dock on a paddleboard. And he's taken into custody. He's 28 years old. That's the age where you still think you can outrun the cops. Was charged with loitering and prowling. Then he was charged, of course, with resisting arrest.
It looks like the police have their own paddle boards.
Yeah, down there in Florida, they all
You gotta love the sheriff in the shorts and
yeah,
on the water. That's real fun.
Gotta say, that sheriff's office, they know how to get into it. Very impressive. Well, he was taken into custody, and he won't be paddling for a little while. The largest male great white shark has returned to the waters off of Florida's coast in time for spring break.
What?
I know. This is a huge white shark, the Atlantic Ocean's largest male white shark on record. It is on the move once again.
I've never seen anything like it.
It was tagged by this research company, and that's how they know where it is. And the I shouldn't say it. I mean, it's a huge shark. It's a he. He's traveled up the coast, spending long periods of time around the Carolinas, traveled further north up into Canadian waters, back down south again. It's kind of cool that they can track him the way they can. And in recent days, Contender, as he's called, has pinged several times along the Florida coast in time for spring break.
It's also
The
spring
most recent-
break for him too.
It's also
enjoy Florida Keys.
You know, the
warmer
drunkest
waters.
partiers taste a little different. So
yeah, it's a bit scary.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
At the time of his tagging, Contender was nearly 14 feet long. Now they estimate him to be about 32 years old. I mean, he was 32 years old when he was tagged. I guess.
wow.
You know, it's amazing. These creatures are just extraordinary. Just a note: he's not gone into the Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America, whatever it's called now, the Gulf of Trump, since being tagged. But many of these tagged white sharks have made recent visits to the Gulf. So the Gulf is becoming an increasingly popular place for them. And finally, I wasn't even swerving. A Florida man is caught driving backward on the highway. William Murphy III, facing charges of habitual driving with a suspended license. I guess he likes to get out there. And why go through the paperwork of getting an actual driver's license, you know? I mean, I'm with him. DMV can be a tough, tough place. He was caught driving backwards, though, on State Road 100. It prompted an unusual encounter for law enforcement. Deputies saying that the incident was reported by several callers who saw this silver sedan driving in reverse on the highway's eastbound lane. We're showing it to you now.
He does have mad driving skills, but
He's
why?
pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Deputies added they tracked the car to a Panda Express parking lot. That's always where they're going, isn't it? Yep. It's Panda Express or Subway sandwich shops. That's where they go. And it was pulled over after it spun right around, as they said.
Wow.
The driver, William Murphy III, 47 years old, of Palm Coast, said that the car had a mechanical issue, and he thought the best option really was to drive it backward to AutoZone. Oh, problem solved.
Couldn't drive it forward.
Except the mechanical issues seemed to evaporate when deputies got behind him. And body cam footage shows him claiming the car was stuck in reverse. And he didn't see it as a criminal issue. I didn't think it was that bad. You know what I'm saying, he said? I wasn't even swerving or anything like that, or driving fast. The deputy says, you were driving backwards down the road.
Telemeter
said, yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as if you were reversed. No, it's not, dude, said the deputy.
Delameter says that's such fantastic driving that they should let him go.
Murphy was ultimately arrested and now faces a charge of habitual driving with a suspended license, later released on $1,000 bond. That is your passel of Floridian-related stories. We have to choose a favorite. We don't want to, but we must. It's in the bylaws of the show. I'll remind you the stories you've heard. Sometimes you can lose track in all of the mirth and merriment. The suspect caught during a paddleboard pursuit in Florida. The largest male great white shark, named Contender, returning to the waters off Florida's coast in time for spring break. Or the dude who says, I wasn't even swerving, as he was caught driving backward on Highway 100. What's your favorite, Kim?
I really thought it was gonna be the sheriffs on the paddleboard, but I gotta go with backwards driver. I mean that's just yeah.
Albert, how did the kids feel about it?
A lot of people love the backwards driver. I like how he had the pit stop at the fake pit stop at the where was he going? Panda Express. Yeah, Panda Express.
Panda Express, right.
On the way to AutoZone.
On the way to AutoZone. A paddleboard sheriff getting some love, but backward driver seems to really be carrying the day. Well, you can ask your family. Play the game at home. That is Friday Fabulous Florida.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Thanks for being here. We've got so much to do. I've got a big interview. You've always sometimes asked, I should say not all of you, but a few of you have asked at some of these conversations we have. We let breathe even longer, and so we have such a conversation bottom of this hour with Adam James, who really does a breakdown and analysis of Donald Trump's mental acuity and physical situation. So all of that to come. I did want to mention I've got Mo and Michael next, and Sweet106bakery.com. I will tell you, we sent some Sweet 106 Bakery stuff to Mo Kelly, and the result was that we had a very happy Mo Kelly. I'm bringing him early just to comment on that. Mo, you can speak to how magnificent this product is.
It is beyond magnificent, and I think that undersells it. Sometimes when we say something is wonderful or it's great, we can't find the right superlative. Wonderful undersells it, if only because I happen to have a sweet tooth. I love all things which are sweets, even though I shouldn't at this age. But this was something which surprised me. It took me back. I was telling you and also Kim in our text chat that it's the double vanilla for me. My wife and I, we sat down at the kitchen table and we were opening it up. It's like, okay, do we put this in the refrigerator? We just eat it right out of the cup. And we just said, F it, we'll eat it right out of the cup. We had like a quasi date night at the counter, eating out of the double vanilla Sweet 106 Bakery cup. It was fantastic. It was glorious. It was food.
You're wonderful. I'm laughing because I honestly, we had the same experience. We eat it right out of the cup. And now she's kind of deputized us to, if you want to put it in the microwave and give it a little pop and let some of the stuff melt, it's okay. Because I didn't want to, Christy's won Cupcake Wars twice. And my feeling was I didn't want to disturb the natural order. You know what I mean? But now she sort of says, hey, you can play with it that way. So, guys, check it out for yourself. You will love it. It's a great gift. It's a great thing to bring to whatever event or to send to family members and friends. Sweet106bakery.com. Use the discount code MARKT. You'll get 15% off. Sweet106bakery.com. Once again, they have the minis. They have the regular size. Go nuts and use our discount code. 15% off with MARKT at checkout. Sweet SUITE. It's like a suite of rooms. Sweet106bakery.com.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On Fridays, we like to check in on what's been happening in the week past and what might be happening in the week ahead. We do it with two brilliant guys who can really break things down with utter clarity. I love this guy's take. I mean, just so clear and so brilliant. He is the wonderful Mo Kelly. And joining also is a guy who's forgotten more about politics than many of us will ever know. He's the great Michael Shure. Really happy to have you guys. We're at full strength today. Look, we're talking about sending more troops to Iran. We're talking about a play strategically with those troops on a geographically exposed area, Karg Island, but nonetheless a critical place for the Iranian oil exports, and for their entire 90% of the oil they produce comes out of Karg Island. So speak to this both escalation and strategy as we get into this war a little bit deeper. Michael Shure.
Well, I mean, I think the escalation is due to the lack of strategy. So asking about both, look, you have to be, as far as I know, and I'm not an expert in war, you have to be reactive in war as well. But if you don't have a plan that you're sticking to, and you've gone past the point of this being a brief military exercise, you are now diverging from what your ally, in this case, your Israel is who they're saying their ally was in this. They're diverging from what that plan was. I don't know where the strategy is. So of course these things are going to happen. Of course they're going to invent things as they go along, and that to me is the danger. And that's why everyone at arm's distance in Europe and around the world, you don't have this kind of backing. You'll recall, and I think we talked about it last week, when George H.W. Bush went into Kuwait to save Kuwait and get Iraq out. He went around the world first and talked to everybody and said, this is what we're going to do. We need your support. We need, if we don't need your military support, we need your verbal and diplomatic support, et cetera, et cetera. Trump didn't do this at all. And in fact, nobody really knows what the plan was to begin with, other than to go along with what the intelligence out of Israel was saying. And so, Mark, I don't know the answer on what this bodes for as far as the war is concerned, but it is an example of how there is no plan and no strategy, and how he is trying to now force his way into saving the Strait of Hormuz, and that's going to have to be done unilaterally.
The Iraq military mess took a year to ramp up. They went to the UN twice. I mean, they virtually lawyered up compared to these guys to make a case for getting into Iraq. If you read the Rick's book, Fiasco, you realize what was happening behind the scenes, that they really had their hearts set on Iraq. I'm talking about Bush.
Bush the second. You're talking about Bush the second. I was talking about Bush the first, and Desert Storm and the Gulf.
Well, Desert Storm had a real. I mean, there was an imperative around Desert Storm. I mean,
yeah.
the Middle East was on fire. I guess what I'm trying to do is compare what was another act of military folly, and also the ridiculousness of an argument made for even getting involved in Iraq, with this, which is an act of military folly, and the ridiculousness of getting involved when you have no plan, and it is unclear exactly how you're going to get out and where the leverage points are. So, Mo, with that too lengthy preamble, I ask you, I mean, the escalatory ladder that seems to be developing here doesn't seem to have a way out for the Americans.
If you turn down the TV, or if the volume on your computer or phone, if you just look at what the news is telling you that is not being disputed by the Trump administration, it is, yes, Mark, an escalation. We are sending more troops. We are sending more assets and warships to that region, which goes against, if you turn up the volume, what the Trump administration is trying to tell us, that it'll be over when I say it's over in my bones. No. We're in for a protracted war effort, because I don't believe that we didn't have a plan. I believe that the plan that the Trump administration had going in was insufficient. And it was Iron Mike Tyson who said it best, that everyone has a plan until they get hit in the mouth. And even though we may be winning this war, there's no reason to believe that we're not winning or on the plus side of this war. It is probably going longer and deeper and having much more difficulties than the original Trump plan had intended for. They thought it was going to be like Venezuela. It is not. And so we're going to be there for months, maybe even years, depending on what we're attempting to do. And we do not have a sufficient plan to address what has since happened after that opening salvo. They may have thought that it was going to go one way with NATO. It didn't. They may have thought it was going to go another way with the Strait of Hormuz. It has not. And since they have been trying to get back on track, trying to find some way to save what was their initial strategy, and they're unable to.
There were talks, nuclear talks underway, and the mediator for the latest nuclear talks wrote a piece in The Economist. He's the foreign minister in Oman, and he says that the U.S. has, quote, lost control of its own foreign policy. And he's accusing Israel of persuading Donald Trump's administration to go to war with Iran, a conflict he describes as a catastrophe and a grave miscalculation. And he, again, was saying, look, the nuclear talks were close to a real resolution, and then it was a shock when, after these substantive talks began, just a few hours later, Israel and America launched this military strike. Speak to how the region is changed, Michael, and how it might be changed forever as a result of this.
Yeah, foreign policy is not my bailiwick, as it were, but I think when you look at and we read the same things, we can look at what has changed there. We can, that's why when Mo's saying we may be winning the war, I don't think this war is about neutralizing the Iranians, neutralizing the nuclear weapons that are there. I think this war is about what it's done to isolate America. And I don't know that I don't think you can see winning there, because you have all of our allies. Right now, Mark Carney is the de facto leader of the Western world, and what he has been able to do in garnering support for staying away from his European allies, from everybody else, is remarkable. And that is why I think America is losing here. And to go to your question, the region was under some kind of change. The Abraham Accords that were introduced in the first Trump administration were having an effect. We don't know what kind of effect, and we don't know how shallow that effect would be. I mean, coming out of the Arab Spring, which started the Obama administration, you saw that they were ready for change happening in that region. That these countries there was an anti-monarchical feeling that was going on there. But then as these countries have said, all right, we're going to go against Iran, you have Iran now bombing countries that were friendly with the United States, that had been for many, many years part of an Arab coalition, a Muslim coalition in that region, and that has shattered. And that speaks to what you're saying as far as, and I don't know if it's shattered permanently, but as far as changing this area potentially permanently, or certainly in an enduring way. And I think that is another reason why this is not a victory for anybody in the United States.
The U.S. has about 50,000 troops in the region already. Now hints at an increase and more significant involvement coming from a president, Donald Trump, who promised not to engage American service members in any long-term conflicts abroad. And in fact, was quite critical of the Bush administration for involvement in conflict abroad. Albert, could you play this clip, which hasn't aged well for Donald Trump, talking about just this, the fact that George Bush was involved in a war that was illegal and utter folly?
It just seemed like she was going to really look to impeach Bush and get him out of office, which personally I think would have been a wonderful thing.
Impeaching him?
Absolutely, for the war. For the war.
Because of the conduct of the
Well, he
war.
lied. He got us into the war with lies. And, I mean, look at the trouble Bill Clinton got into with something that was totally unimportant. And they tried to impeach him, which was nonsense. And yet Bush got us into this horrible war with lies, by lying, by saying they had weapons of mass destruction, by saying all sorts of things that turned out not to be true. It just seemed like...
As I was saying, Bush at least had the decency to lie to us. Trump just really launched. I do think that Trump's reputational damage to the United States can't be overstated. I really like that you mentioned that, Michael, because I think we can lose it all in the fog of this. But I'm wondering if you think the political damage to him is so significant that it's going to spill over onto his party in a substantial way.
Is that for me, Mark?
I was going to ask just a quick follow-up with Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I think the political damage is with Trump is hard to measure until people are actually campaigning in earnest, and then you'll start to see it. I think that seeing Republicans already distancing themselves from this sort of haphazard policy, also Republicans not wanting to do an accounting of the war because they're so afraid of what it's going to mean if there's division within their party. If people say, "Oh my God, this is costing far more than we think," you have the Pentagon asking for $200 billion more. So I think this is a political hit, but I don't think it's a hit you're going to feel right away. I think it's a hit that's going to happen once, maybe after Memorial Day, all the way up through the election.
Yeah, how about this political stink, Mo? Can the GOP somehow survive it?
Well, that's the thing. When you hitch your wagon to the star of Donald Trump, it was all good in 2016, and it was all good for a time in 2024/2025. But now that star is descending; it's no longer ascending. And then there's really not much that the politicians in the Republican Party can do. Donald Trump does not care about the party. He does not care about his own base. This is the same man who directed an angry mob to the Capitol to stop the peaceful transfer of power. He will literally burn this country down to save himself. He has enacted and started a war to save himself, to deflect from the Epstein files and any other things which may be found out about him. He is trying to stay in office beyond the time of his two constitutionally allowable terms because he does not want to face the music and possibly end up in jail or prison if he should live that long. I've long talked about the failure of imagination as to the depravity, depravity of this man. He will do anything to make sure that he is protected. And that comes at the expense of the GOP and any politician who should hitch their wagon to his star.
I want to ask you about another key character in all of this, because there is a political spillover. There's also operational spillover. There are a lot of aspects to the involvement of Pete Hegseth. He's made himself, very available, and he sort of plays up the machismo of war. The ugliness of war is something that we find eclipsed by his machismo. But there's some things he's doing that put him in an uncomfortable situation. I mean, some would say everything he's doing puts him in an uncomfortable situation. I mean, those briefings to me are really hard to stomach. Play me cut 3, though, when he talks about the families of those fallen in battle and what they say to him.
As heroes came home, flag draped caskets, we honored them. We grieved with their families, and we listened. What I heard through tears, through hugs, through strength, and through unbreakable resolve was the same from family after family. They said, finish this. Honor their sacrifice. Do not waver. Do not stop until the job is done. My response, along with that of the president, was simple. Of course, we will finish this. We will honor their sacrifice. Their sacrifice only steals our commitment.
The father of the service member killed in Iran said he never told Pete Hegseth to finish the job. Hegseth said family after family of service members killed urged him and the administration to not stop until the job is done. The father said that he appreciated the compassion that Hegseth and Trump showed him during their visit, but he never said that. It is not something that we talked about, is the quote. Using the fallen for propaganda of one sort or another is a storied, time-honored tradition at the Pentagon. See the Tillman story and how Tillman's loss, and he was killed by friendly fire, was covered up and completely perverted by the Pentagon as a recruiting tool. So I'm not suggesting that Hegseth is tilling new ground here, but it's still a really bad look. Michael
it's a terrible look. Mark, can you tell me who Harold Brown is? It's a little bit of a trivia question.
No.
Yeah, he was Jimmy Carter's defense secretary.
All right.
You never saw.
So you're making a point that we won't remember who the
no. I'm making a point that if you don't have a performance artist and you don't send people into harm's way with haphazard reasoning, you're not going to know who the defense secretary is. You're not going to get a performance artist, which is what Pete Hegseth is with his costume store pocket square with the American flag. I mean, these are not serious people, and this is a serious time that's happening right now. It's always a serious time, but this is a grave time because we are at war right now, even if the administration isn't using that word on the reg unless they're talking about their Department of War. And then you see this picture right here that Albert's put up, and I think it's Albert, but or Tony, but whoever it is. I mean, that is what you're seeing here. This is not a becoming of a Secretary of Defense, and this is not the moment for people like this. And so I think when you hear Hegseth and he's lying, and yes, they embellish, and I'm not accusing them of crocodile tears. I just don't think these are serious people that are doing this.
I mean, it's hard to argue with that. I want to hear from you in a second, Mo, but I wanted to play for you that apparently America agreeing that Hegseth is something of maybe a joke, maybe just an unserious guy, maybe just a hateful person. It's cut 8, the latest polling on Hegseth. This comes from that guy, Harry at CNN, who reminds me of everybody's Aunt Sadie, who shows up in the manner in which he speaks.
I had an Aunt Sadie, by the way.
It's very Atlantic City, I think. Yeah. But all right, go ahead.
Data analyst Harry Etten. So how popular is the Secretary of Defense and what he's doing?
Pete Hegseth and those briefings are going over like a lead balloon. What are we talking about? Let's take a look here. Look at the net popularity rating for Pete Hegseth in recent polling. You look at Quinnipiac. Look at this. 15 points underwater. You think that's low? Why don't we go over to Yahoo YouGov? Even lower. Way down there at minus 18 points. Come over to this side of the aisle. Look at independents. This has been the story of the Trump presidency, and it is the story of Pete Hegseth. You see on popularity overall. Look at independents, even lower, minus 28 points among independents, according to Quinnipiac. And then taking the cake, look at this, 33 points underwater Pete Hegseth is with independents, according to Yahoo YouGov. As I said at the beginning, he's going over like a lead balloon, not just overall, but especially with independents.
So I haven't heard going over like a lead balloon since Aunt Sadie in New Jersey, but the point is made clearly. And, Mo, Michael is right that Hegseth has decided to take the limelight. He's decided to, he is the performance artist. I love that phrase he used. But there in that poll, he's not a popular guy. You're not putting somebody out front who in any way can carry the water in a good way. Somebody unmute Mo.
I'm sorry.
Mo unmuted Mo. Yeah.
He's not there to get ratings. He's not there to generate popular support. He's there to please one person, and that's Donald Trump. That's part of the reason why he got mostly people from TV, Fox News. There's a manner of presentation and ostentatiousness and bravado that he wants in this performance art. And Pete Hegseth delivers that. I liken him more to a combination of the Sham Wow guy and Marco Rubio when I hear him, Harry Enton. But, as far as Pete Hegseth goes, I understand why, because just going back to COVID very quickly, you had those COVID briefings every single day, and they turned into political rallies after a certain point. These defense briefings are the same, where they are just propaganda. They are campaign rallies for the purpose of pleasing one person, Donald Trump. And it's not about changing people's minds. It's about putting out there a face that Donald Trump approves of, physically and also rhetorically.
Let's wrap Hegseth for now. And now let me just ask you, I have two more things and I'm up against it a little bit, but, Joe Kent, not a fan of Joe Kent. Joe Kent is like major MAGA. I also just say his resignation letter, which talked about the absurdity of this war. I have respect for that. I have respect for the fact that he resigned. But I had problems with his resignation letter. He blamed Israel for getting us into this. I have no problem with that. I mean, I think that's a perfectly defensible argument. But blaming Israel for getting us into Iraq, please, that's bullshit. But that said, he weighed in on Charlie Kirk and the fact that the investigation was closed down into the Charlie Kirk murder from this administration. Play me cut 4.
And then the other option is much darker. I mean, we still don't know what happened in Butler. We don't know what happened with Charlie Kirk. And by no means am I saying like, the Israelis did this or any of that, but I'm saying there's a lot of unanswered questions there. And there is enough data to at least say that there's a good chance that President Trump feels like he is under threat. We're not allowed to ask, basically, was there any linkage between what took place with Asif Merchant, who was recruited by the Iranians to come to America to recruit proxies to kill President Trump. The FBI put a confidential human source at him. All this is public now. This is all out there in the open. And he's arrested. And then 2 days later, a sniper takes a shot at President Trump. We think Merchant and the we know the CHS was talking about the human source that the FBI put at Merchant. They were talking about, hey, we could kill the president potentially with a sniper rifle. But then they arrest him. 2 days later, Butler happens. And Crooks, according to the official narrative anyways, is an enigma. We don't know anything about him. We can't get into his devices. If we did get into his devices, maybe there's nothing there. No more questions are allowed to be asked about Thomas Crooks. The DHS IG is currently being blocked from investigating Butler as well. That's out in the media. That's all well known. Your investigative journalists found that Crooks did indeed have an online persona,
quite an
online
extensive
footprint,
one.
and he was talking
Yes.
to people. So
Yeah.
it's like, why aren't we investigating this? I mean, if
An attempted murder of a presidential
attempted
candidate?
murder of a presidential candidate, and then there's another assassination attempt. There's been multiple public breaches of President Trump's security over the last year. And then, Charlie Kirk is killed publicly in a very horrific way. And we're not really even allowed to look into that at all. And Charlie Kirk was one of President Trump's closest advisors. And he also advocated heavily against a war with Iran. He was in the Oval Office in the lead up to the 12-day war. I wasn't particularly close with Charlie. He was very gracious to me when I was running for Congress, very, very supportive. So we knew each other. And the last time I saw Charlie Kirk on this earth was in June in the West Wing in the stairway. And I said hi to him, and he looked me in the eye, and he said very loudly, and it's a small, you've been in the West Wing, it's small, it's a tight space. And he said, Joe, stop us from getting into a war with Iran. Very loudly.
He was
So
single-minded.
that
He walked
is
off
a
and-
kind of a snapshot of this that's percolating. And I think especially given the power of independent media now, this becomes more relevant to any kind of public discourse than it might have been for a long time. Michael?
Yeah, well, of course, and these conspiracy theorists, and I covered Joe Kent when he ran for Congress, but the same year that I ran and lost, he ran and lost for the first time. And until I decided to run, I was still covering elections, and I covered his race in Washington State. He was a conspiracy theorist. I was doing a story on people that were going to justice for the January 6th people to their rallies and organizing for them. And that's who Joe Kent was. So I don't take him very seriously at all. And again, I mean, consistent with what we were saying about Hegseth and what Mo was saying too, these are not serious people. And so Joe Kent leaving the administration, what he said and what he said to Tucker Carlson there, yes, it's compelling, but it is so emblematic of the type of people that this president surrounds himself with, these sort of fantastic, in the literal sense of the word, people consumed with fantasy, and how they operate all day long. Well, this could have happened, so let's act this way. And I think that reactionary type of person is best left out of a presidential administration. So I think the place is better because of Joe Kent. And also, he didn't open the floodgates, because a lot of people know that Joe Kent is a little off the rails. So he didn't open the floodgates of other people to leave the administration or Republicans to rally about it. That says most to me about what happened here.
Mo?
Just very quickly, you can acknowledge that Joe Kent is an imperfect vehicle in which to accept this information, but you can also acknowledge that his public rantings are probably indicative of many private rantings of other people. And that is the takeaway from me. He's not a solitary voice. He's not even necessarily the most important voice, but he is emblematic of an existing and growing dissent to this war in Iran.
And now, two things. I know I have to wrap, but I have to share with you the Curb Your Enthusiasm moment, cut 10, with the Japanese Prime Minister and Donald Trump saying the most inappropriate thing. Go ahead.
Why didn't you tell U.S. allies in Europe and Asia, like Japan, about the war before attacking Iran? So we are very confused about we Japanese citizens.
Well, one thing, you don't want to signal too much. You know, when we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay, why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay, right? You know, he's asking me. No, you believe in surprise, I think much more so than us. And we had to surprise him, and we did. And because of that surprise, we knocked out, the first 2 days, we probably knocked out 50% of what we, and much more than we anticipated doing. So if I go and tell everybody about it, there's no longer a surprise, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, just, I think, a tone-deaf moment, right? This is who we've got. Wouldn't you agree, Mo?
Look, it's indicative of he's ethically bereft, he's morally bereft, he's incapable of empathy. He's the person that America chose twice. He is the example of American exceptionalism. You can't shame those who are without shame, and there is a continuing price that we're going to have to pay for choosing this ignoramus not once but twice.
Wow. I think that pretty much says it. Anything to add, Michael Shure? We're going to wrap up.
No, just, what Mo said. What he's done to the office of the presidency is embarrassing, but impermanent. Somebody can repair that. Biden, in a way, did when he came into office, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat the next time. This office can be repaired.
The SAVE Act doesn't get passed. Am I right, Michael Shure?
I don't think it gets passed, no.
You agree, Mo?
Nope.
No chance.
No chance in hell.
You guys are great. Thank you for spending time with us. Again, I need to send you some Sweet 106 cupcakes and stuff, Michael. I have to Mo. Yeah, Michael's on the move a lot, so he's tough to. But
wherever Michael is, he finds time for a cupcake.
Okay, all right. We'll if you give me an address, I'll send you a piece of paradise. All right, thank you guys.
Yeah,
Appreciate you so much. Yeah.
Just like we're sending you a coffee cup, Michael Shure.
Right, oh, yeah, eventually. Right. It's with your coffee cup. Yeah, okay. All right, guys. Thank you. Appreciate you both.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
You wanted an extended interview with Adam James. An extended interview with Adam James you shall get on Donald Trump, his health, and mental acuity. Here you go.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yes, all I look forward to any time this guy has time for us. He is a guy who gives us a window on Donald Trump's physical and mental condition, unlike anyone else. Can find him across the social media world, on TikTok, on Facebook, on you name it, and he's on the platform. How about it for Adam James, everybody? Welcome, sir. Remind everybody your basic perspective is informed by real experience, so please remind everyone the work you do.
Right. So I'm a licensed physical therapist in the state of Georgia, and I've been working for the last 14 plus, almost 15 years in home healthcare, where all of our patients are 65 and above for the most part, or around that age. And many of them have multiple types of dementia, multiple degrees of age-related cognitive decline, and multiple complex chronic conditions that are incurable, and we are assisting these patients in how to best manage them.
And you've seen a lot of indications in President Trump of these things that you see in these patients that you help.
A lot. He's the swelling in the lower extremities that has made news for a while now. His cognitive deficits, his cognitive decline, his description of his neuropsychological workup, the multiple MRIs, the multiple cognitive examinations that he believes have something to do with his aptitude, his ability to make up stuff on the spot that he 100% believes. This is stuff I see day in and day out.
I want to ask you about that in a moment, about the way he speaks and about the self-assured manner he has, because it's almost hard to believe that this guy is, you could say he's dim, you could say he's self-absorbed, even like, true megalomania, sort of self-absorption. But you could also say, but I don't really see, and again, he's paper thin, but I don't see that it, so I want to come back to this in a moment, the reality of the way he speaks beyond just the self-assuredness. But this is a cut that just came in from remarks he was making about both the Iran war and, oddly, the Kennedy Center. So he's talking about it was just a marriage of a couple of disparate things. And, of course, Trump riffs between that and a bunch of other stuff, too. Here he is giving away the medical condition of a public official.
In fact, when we get up to 3, every once in a while we get up to 3. Actually, for a period of time, we had it.
Talking about Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson is to his right
death,
for people who are just listening.
And death is very bad when you're the speaker and you have a majority of 2 or 3. But we had a death, and then we had another death, and we had some things, and but we're looking very strong. We had one man who was very ill. It looked like he wasn't going to make it. I don't know. I won't mention his name. Should I? Do other people know his name? Do you want to mention it? He'll be proud. Go ahead. Tell him the story.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. President. Congressman Neil Dunn of Florida had some real health challenges, and it was very serious, and had a pretty grim diagnosis. And I mentioned it to the president, and I said, Congressman Dunn is a real champion and a patriot because he's still coming to work. And if others got this diagnosis, they would be apt to go home and retire. And
what was the diagnosis?
It was, I think it was a terminal diagnosis.
He would be dead by June.
Okay, that wasn't public, but yeah, okay. That's it was grim. That's what I was going to say. I don't think
with a heart problem, by the way. This was a heart problem.
So, the long story short, the president called him to encourage him and thank him, and they had a conversation. And the president mentioned in the course of the conversation, I ought to get my doctors involved, and they did. And within a number of hours, they took him to Walter Reed Emergency Surgery. The man has a new lease on life. He acts like he's 30 years younger, and he walked into the conference meeting, and we thought we'd seen a ghost. And I spoke with him over the weekend, and he's encouraged and thankful, and he thanks the president for his leadership and intervention. And thank you.
He actually called Mike. Mike called me, and he said, "Sir, we're up by 3, but we're going to lose 1 by June." I said, "Who?" Neil Dunn. He's a great congressman, incredible. He called to say that he was terminal, really bad heart. There's nothing they can do. I said, "That's bad." Number 1, it was bad because I liked him. Number 2, it was bad because I needed his vote. But he really said, "Mike, I'm going to last this out for the president and you, and however long I live," it looks like June is the time, but however long I live, I'm going to be voting for you. How many people are going to say that? Most of them are going to say, "Mike, I'm retiring immediately. That's the end."
He's an extraordinary
man.
But
he didn't do that. It was really impressive. And then I realized I have doctors in the White House. The White House doctors are incredible. And they've helped me with other people. They're helping me with people right now. People that are very sick are like they're miracle workers. And I said, I have to call them. And I called the 2 doctors. They're both great. And they immediately went over to see the congressman. And he was on the operating table like 2 hours later.
Yeah.
And it was a long operation. They gave him more stents and more everything that you could have. I think he's got everything that you could possibly have. And they called up. They said, "Sir, I think he'll be fine." I said, you got to be kidding. He said, I think he'll be fine. And Mike was telling me the story that the other day he came into a meeting for the first time in a long while. Go ahead.
Well, it was incredible. I mean, he has a new lease on life. He has more energy than a man half his age, and very encouraged and encouraged all of us. So again, a testament to great leadership. And
so there you have it. I mean, I think there are a couple of things. I'm down here what you say, but he kind of just rambles, and he does this ramble, and that so defines almost every kind of situation of the sort that we've just seen. But what do you see there when you watch it?
There's so much going on. Well, first of all, Trump bullies Mike Johnson into sharing this information to begin with. And of course, Mike Johnson doesn't have a spine. So he goes ahead with it, and he tries to be as discreet as possible. Trump ruins that. He mentions, oh, he's going to be dead by June. And of course, Mike says, well, that wasn't public. He's trying to make sure he doesn't, these guys don't care about federal law anyway, let's be honest, but they're literally breaking the law, like personal health information,
sure.
Confidentiality. And then, Trump slaps Mike on the shoulder, just like he did with Marco Rubio when he said, oh, Marco just handed me a note. Go back to Chevron. Like it was exactly the same thing. And what I'm hearing, here's what they're not saying. Neil Dunn is a surgeon. He is an MD. He completed a surgical residency and maybe a fellowship too. If there's something that these wackos that Trump got to do for him, he mentions stents by name. We know it's a cardiac issue. So it could be they placed multiple stents and they may have implanted a pacemaker defibrillator. I don't know. But if a surgeon is telling you, the Speaker of the House, they're giving me till June. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, probably right.
He knows what's available. He knows what can or cannot be done. Well, he gets in touch with Trump's doctors, and 2 hours later, he's on the operating table. I'm like, they strong-armed him into going under anesthesia to place a stent.
Wow.
That's what I think they did. And Trump wants this story to come out so bad because he looks like a superhero.
Sure.
He looks like the savior of MAGA, so the savior of the Republican majority, even though they're going to get their ass handed to them in November. He wants to be seen as the savior. And again, he goes on. He keeps talking about it. These doctors, they've been helping me with several people. I'm like, are you getting consent from the patients? And Neil Dunn, as smart as he is to become a surgeon, he is an idiot politically, ideologically, and socially, because he will cave to somebody like Donald Trump when he, as a medical doctor, knows I can't go under anesthesia to place the stent. I think that's what happened, because again, if a physician comes to you and says, the doctors who gave him that news, they know he's a doctor. They know that. So they don't beat around the bush. They say, well, Neil, I'll tell you what, bud, you got a 95% in the old Widowmaker there. And in several other vessels, you're 90%. And at your age and your health history, I can't put you under to put a stent in, brother. Or it's too risky to do whatever it is we would do normally. So it's absolutely asinine. Like apparently Neil Dunn is okay being an instrument of propaganda. His own life is literally an instrument of propaganda for Donald Trump and everybody else in MAGA. So that's what I really think happened. If there was something that could have been done, Dr. Neil Dunn would have done it. He would have had it done. He would have gotten somebody he went to medical school with or did residency with and been like, hey man, I really trust you. I'm in bad shape. Can you help me out? And of course they would agree, that kind of discreetly, of course. But, they're doing, the context of all this is the fantasy that they're going to maintain majority in both houses of Congress.
Sure, they're vulnerable on both sides.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because you do break it down well. I didn't really think it through, that in a sense that it was a Trump power play just to get him into the OR. And so I mean, this is the power of this guy over the party and those
Yes.
who consider themselves,
Yes.
MAGA loyalists.
Yeah. The doctors that he had reach out to Neil Dunn, they don't know like drastically more than Dr. Dunn does, or with the physicians that are treating Neil Dunn. They're not miracle workers. They're just foolish enough to be in Donald Trump's pocket. That's the only thing. And they're willing to do some stuff because they're counting on a pardon.
Oh, I see. Yeah. There's that too.
Everybody in the administration's counting on a pardon.
I wonder if you could play cut 17 where he is just riffing about the Kennedy Center, and then he goes to Jerome Powell, and he's sort of all over the place. And then I kind of want to talk about his style and how clear-headed he is and exactly what's going on there as reflected by his manner. Go ahead, Tony. Thank you.
Because it was failing. It would have closed, and physically it would have almost fallen down. It was in very bad shape. The steel columns outside, as an example, were meant to be covered. It's exposed steel is unusual to have in building. What I do best in life is build. I build buildings really well and under budget and ahead of schedule. That's what I do. Unlike the Fed building, which is going to cost billions of dollars. It may never open. I mean, right now, we have a wonderful Kevin, a wonderful new head of the Fed coming in. I don't know if he'll ever be able to occupy this complex. It was destroyed by Jerome, too late, Powell. I call him too late because he's always too late with interest. Should cut interest rates. He should cut them right now. They should have a special meeting. What's a better time to cut interest rates than now? A third grade student would know that. But that's a terrible thing. But what I do is build. I build great stuff. And what we're going to do is, right outside. In fact, if you look behind me, see the nice gold curtains? If you want to look into a nice foundation and you want to see a lot of work, very deep, very, very deep for specific reasons, we have a magnificent ballroom being built because this is the biggest room and it holds like 98 people for dinner. But behind me, you're going to have a ballroom that this building and the people occupying it, in particular, every president for 150 years has clamored for a ballroom, a large, beautiful room. This is a cocktail room, and this whole floor will end up being a cocktail room for the cocktail area or pre-area for the ballroom before dinners. So we'll have heads of state. We can't even do a heads of state dinner. Usually what they do is they would do them on the lawn with a tent. But when it rains, the lawn is very low. And you know the land in Washington. It was built on swampy, wet land. And when it rains and you have the king of Saudi Arabia, we have, as an example, the king of the UK, I would say king of England, who's a great guy. He's coming in very soon. And when it rains, you know what happened? The rain would go over their feet. It would be about 4 or 5 inches over their shoes. This was not good. And it rained a lot. So we're building, finally, because I do that. And by the way, no taxpayer money. I want to put that, zero. It's on time, on budget. It'll be under budget. We're having it under budget, other than we've upgraded it in terms of the marbles we're using. We're using onyx and stones that are incredible. But it'll be something really spectacular. I'm looking at Mr. Steve Wynn, who's over there. He built a spectacular building, and he knows Trump builds a spectacular building. I built better buildings than him. I don't care what he said. But Steve is over here, and he really, with his incredible wife, Andrea.
So you get there a lot. You really get a lot. Now, to be fair to Trump, I kind of played a cut in a way that you have referenced in your various conversations, like he'll default to things he knows about really well. Like that's one of his moves. And in this case, I played a cut that is just that, right? He knows about construction and building, and he's a developer, et cetera. So in a way, it's more flattering to him on one level, but the way in which he just, riffs and riffs and goes while there's a 5-alarm fire going in Iran, It's a remarkable thing to see.
Sure. But he's he's so good at convincing people he knows what he's talking about, when in fact he knows nothing about building anything. He knows nothing about that. He was in a documentary that's on Netflix right now where a journalist asked him directly about the operations of a casino. You've never seen somebody squirm so much and say nothing for 2 or 3 minutes straight. He doesn't know anything about anything.
He licensed his name is the point on all these buildings.
That's right.
He's
That's
not,
right. When I look at Donald Trump, I don't see a guy who swung a hammer.
Yeah.
But he speaks with such confidence because, number one, he's a malignant narcissist. He fully has the maximum amount of unearned, unjustified confidence that a human being can possibly have. So that's the context for, anytime he's talking. Mary Trump, his relative that's, written a book about him and all that stuff, and she's a psychologist herself. She says there is nothing that exists beyond Donald Trump. That's the world he lives in. So when he talks, nothing else really matters. Contradictory information is not a thing. And he speaks, again, it's one thing for somebody with frontotemporal dementia to confabulate and fill in the holes in their memory with lies that they 100% believe. It's on a different level when a malignant narcissist confabulates and fills in those holes with lies that they 100% believe, because this guy's been doing this. He was, his entire brand was resurrected by the fool Mark Burnett to make everybody believe he knew something about something. And here we are.
Yeah, the producer of The Apprentice. You're absolutely right. I mean, it was spoken of at the time by a lot of reporters who were involved at the time. I remember reading a long New Yorker piece about how essentially the Trump brand, even his office space, et cetera, was dilapidated, and that Burnett just created, the shimmer that then he could capitalize on. And the show was so popular, so well done, that he was able to do that. When you talk about him and you talk about the shrinkage of the lobe, and you have all that stuff that is so related to the physiology of aging and the brain aging, I come back to the way he speaks. And so he speaks with confidence because of this narcissism he has. But you can see how one wouldn't necessarily associate this with a kind of a diminution of abilities, of mental acuity or physical acuity. In other words, the strength with which he continues to speak really belies a lot of what you're talking about.
Yeah. So what people are used to seeing culturally is Alzheimer's, or like other, more classic forms of dementia. Frontotemporal dementia has way more coming and going than Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's, you just see steady decline. And again, with Alzheimer's, people simply forget. There's no filling in of the holes. So when you have somebody who has they literally have a different neurotype that only exists. It's like a drug addict, the way that their brain interacts with exerting power and control over other people. That's the way Trump's brain, or a malignant narcissist's brain, interacts with exerting power and control over another human being. They live for it. It gives them the high that a drug would give an addict. And so that's how it's the food of their life. And so when he's speaking forcefully, it's a show. It's all an act. When you get him during his sundowning hours, especially like when he called into Dan Bongino's podcast recently, and his voice is very slurred and weak, and he goes on for 2 or 3 minutes solid about Tina Peters being imprisoned in Colorado. And literally it's like 2 or 3 solid minutes of this ranting and raving, and it's 100% false.
In charge of a voting area, and she saw boxes of votes come in. So she went over to check it, and they put her in jail for voter manipulation, and she's still in jail. And they better let her out fast. And they're suffering a big price, Colorado. They have this woman in jail who's 71 years old and probably has cancer. She's sick. And they put her in because she challenged somebody that was dumping ballast into a box, okay? And they didn't put them in jail.
Nothing he said about Tina Peters is true. So that's where he's really at. He can cover it up for, certain stretches of time if he's, had a stimulant like Adderall. We know he abuses Adderall, has for a long time.
And we know that because
we know that from Noel Kasler, who used to work on the set of The Apprentice. He gave an interview to the Midas Touch several years ago. He flat out said, he's like, yeah, Donald Trump abuses Adderall. He would abuse it more so, especially if he had to read something, because he's not actually good at reading from teleprompters or cue cards. It's the most difficult, one of the most difficult things he has to do. And so that's who he really is. If you get, when he's fatigued, sundowning, not on a stimulant, which I believe he is, you're going to get the realist version.
let me ask you now about the constellation of things that you've pointed to in the past. And even at the beginning of our conversation, you pointed to the swelling of the ankles, the diminishment that you see in his mental acuity, et cetera. And you had talked about the fact that, and this again flies in the face of his image, which looks strong, although I understand, I mean, I see him teetering occasionally, but he's not, that Biden read weak because his voice was weak, you know,
Yes.
generally speaking.
Yes.
Trump reads strong because his voice is generally speaking on the stronger side. I think, I mean, it really maybe boiled down just that. But this constellation of things to which you've pointed, you still put him kind of as a short timer, don't you? You still feel as though he, even though, again, he doesn't look to me massively diminished to me, you still think, hey, he is, whether you realize it or not.
Yes, because the most common cause of death for somebody with frontotemporal dementia is aspiration-related pneumonia, where your swallowing mechanism wears out to the point that you aspirate on food or fluid and you develop pneumonia that you can't recover from. His speech, especially when he's fatigued, is way more moist. You can hear the saliva in his mouth. You can hear it blunting his consonants, especially. There's way more saliva in his mouth than there ever was before, and I think it's evidence that his swallowing mechanism is weakening, and his swallowing is more aggressive. It's like more dramatic now, especially if he has to lean his head forward and read off of the podium. That's when it's the worst. I think they've actually stopped him from doing that because they don't want him leaning forward and all that saliva remaining in his mouth. So that's the main reason I look at it that way. The life expectancy for frontotemporal dementia is 7 to 10 years. And so we know he's been displaying symptoms for over a decade. Jeffrey Epstein, of all people, mentioned that he felt like Trump had dementia. You know, he's like, God, he's wearing tons of makeup and he's not recognizing people that I know that he knows. I'm like, how bad was it to get Jeffrey Epstein to say, because he needs Trump alive.
Sure.
He needs Trump functional. So for him to say that in an email, I mean.
Well, he was concerned.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you know what I mean? It seems like a weird thing to say about Jeffrey Epstein. He was concerned about Trump. I mean, concerned about losing his man, you know.
Well, that's true. So yeah, again, I'm putting out the most aggressive timeline, but it's a timeline.
Right.
It certainly is a timeline. And again, we're talking about somebody who is a non-compliant patient. He doesn't care about, eating right. He doesn't care about eating a heart healthy diet, going, low salt or no salt, which they could easily do. He's the president, for God's sake. He's not going to do that. He's going to keep eating Big Macs and filet of fish with a little extra tartar sauce. It could use a little more tartar sauce. Am I right? Who said? What are you talking? Everybody knows that you're sick. Why are you eating such crap? Anyway, and he's taking the adult dose of aspirin against his doctor's instructions. What do you like? This guy is one of those that I find out like in the Teams chat on my tablet that I use for work. I'm just waiting for that message to come through that says so-and-so was admitted to the hospital. It's not looking good. I get one of those several times a week. I get a message like that about some patient who's, a fool. And doesn't want to do what they're told, doesn't want to follow, take their medications, do what, we ask them to do to keep him from dying. So that's what he is.
I would say in Trump's case, he's cheated consequence in almost everything that he's done. And so for that reason, I'm sure he feels like, hey, on some level, he's untouchable.
Yeah,
right?
he's emboldened. He's emboldened. Even the Supreme Court couldn't touch him. I tell you what, if I ever meet any of the justices who voted for that immunity ruling on the street, I'm going to punch him right in the throat.
So destructive, so incredibly destructive.
Unbelievable.
I'll remind everybody that you yourself, Adam, a refugee from a truly right-wing household, but religious right. I mean, it was fire and brimstone kind of place that you grew up in, right?
That's right. Yes, I am. I'm basically ex-MAGA. I was part of it before that, before it was packaged that way. But I was definitely, I was born into fundamentalist Pentecostal charismatic Christianity, and by default, right-wing authoritarian politics. So when Trump was elected, I was kind of happy about that in 2016. I was like, wow, that's crazy. I can't believe he won. This will probably be good, is what I was thinking. Because, of course, Hillary Clinton is the devil. Because I'm just indoctrinated. I'm swimming in the sea of brainwashing that I grew up in.
I mean, it's funny that if you do mature in a place like that, in a household like that, you mature into it. You don't mature out of it oftentimes. What was your moment with this scene with MAGA that kind of snapped you out of it?
Yeah, so it's funny. It was an indirect way that like my tipping point happened. There's this spiritual concept called the rapture, which Christians have been trying to predict for the last 200 years or so. It's the same. It's the same ideology that also produces this narrative that bombing Iran is part of God's end time plan to bring about the return of Christ. The rapture theology is also part of that. And I randomly came across a YouTube video where this guy who was very chill, very soft spoken, a minister who was teaching about how the rapture is made up, and I was like, what did he say? And he was so matter of fact and so chill about it that I was very, I was glued to what he was saying. And he just practically dismantled the idea of the rapture, like point by point. And I was like, oh my God, it made perfect sense. And from there, it begs the question, what else are they lying about? If they're lying about the rapture, what else are they lying about? And honestly, for me, at least, the answer was everything.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's funny how you buy the whole thing and then you don't buy anything. You know what I mean? It's you're either in for the entire thing or
yeah.
Well,
I should say, once that started to happen, that was a spiritual, on-ramp, like theological, biblical on-ramp. But by default, I also began to untangle right-wing authoritarian politics. And the reason that happened is because fundamentalist evangelical Christianity and right-wing authoritarian politics are the same thing.
Well, I'm so glad you made that point because I was just about to say, I mean, people can be religious. They talk about cafeteria Catholics taking what they want, from the scripture or taking from the teachings. But I think you make a really good point. Fundamentalist teachings are really so from everything I've read and clearly from what you've said, I mean, are so authoritarian in their edicts that you just don't step out. You buy into the entire game.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I would argue now that fundamentalist religion is what gave us 9/11 and January 6th.
The January 6th thing that intrigues me. You think because you're saying the belief in a lie is easier when you're in the throes of a religious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They were energized by the concept of spiritual warfare. They think that this is a fight between angels and demons to make sure Donald Trump doesn't have to engage in a peaceful transition of power to Joe Biden. That's what they were doing. That's why they'll climb, literally break in the windows. They think God is, when they got in the room and what's that guy? The shaman, they call him the shaman.
Yeah, the shaman, right.
He leads a prayer in the name of Jesus on the congressional floor. Like, what do you mean? Jesus didn't tell you people to do this. Anybody who's non-Christian, non-religious is like, what?
Yeah.
But that's a key moment where you can tell these people are engaging in this is a jihad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really great way to put it. It's a holy war. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are those who are religious who go, it's crazy. I mean, it's not like all religious
Yes.
people are religious crazy. You know
No,
what I mean?
I'm talking about fundamentalists.
Fundamentalists, yeah.
That's the distinction we make. There's plenty of wonderful people who are not fundamentalist in their religious beliefs. They take what's beautiful, it inspires them to be better people, and that's it. They're not going to storm the Capitol.
Yeah, but the zeal and fervor that informs what you're talking about, which is that the righteous battle, that does make sense. Hadn't really thought of it before, actually.
Yeah, man.
So here is a question for you from Mike, who says, since Donald Trump entered politics, many supporters have praised his tendency to, quote, speak his mind and break from the scripted style of typical politicians, which arguably has been a huge reason for the unwavering base of support he has. At the same time, you've raised concerns about possible signs of cognitive decline. Can you talk about the intersection of those two things? Specifically, how might a longstanding lack of filter interact with or even be amplified by potential dementia or other sorts of diminishments of mental acuity? And do you believe it's possible that Trump's success since 2015 has been in part, here's the wild part, due to the fact that he may be in decline?
So yeah, the intersection between the two things is, in the words of Dr. John Gardner, a clinical psychologist who used to be faculty at Johns Hopkins Medical School, we're in a hell of a lot of trouble, is how he said it. Because his cognitive decline combined with his endless supply of confidence, case in point, he told people, I think it was today, that I don't need advisors. Or he's referencing a conversation with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. You don't need advisors. You can make the decision whenever you want. It's like, that's not how that works at all, sir. And so it can cause him to make extremely dangerous decisions whose consequences he cannot conceive of and really refuses to. Case in point, kidnapping Nicolas Maduro, bombing Iran, threatening to invade Greenland, et cetera, et cetera. Now we're going to take Cuba next. I guess we're bored with Iran. We're going to do another thing. So yeah, that's the real danger, is that he's not interested. Everybody closest to him is not there to advise him. The fact that he would call anyone an advisor, or that anybody is, has that nomenclature, is a farce. Nobody's there to advise him. He's not looking to Marco Rubio, with his razor sharp intellect for matters of state. No, he's a puppet.
But what's interesting here, and is sort of implied by the question, is his unfiltered quality and that impulsiveness that he then acts upon in these wildly dangerous ways and illegal ways, that while those might have been something that existed through Trump in the decades, that as he's had this diminishment of mental acuity and of filtering, that we're sort of getting the perfect storm of him unfiltered, which people loved, right? It helped propel him to the presidency, says what's on his mind, et cetera. And yet, and a system that kind of didn't know how to handle this thing. It was the perfect storm for Trump to ascend to the presidency and do what he's doing.
Correct. So the truth about the American democracy is that it has disconnected from the voter. The representatives that we have elected, they don't work for us. They work for the people that finance their campaigns. This is why massive corporations, billionaires, can achieve complete capture of any regulatory effort. That's true. He simply capitalized on people feeling disenfranchised. That's all he did. And his ability to like the classic example was his first debate with Hillary on stage, because you'd be in jail. Right. There was something about that was so energizing, where somebody finally got on camera and started to tell some member of the political elite, hey, you work for us.
Right.
Now, again,
trolling them live.
Trolling her live on camera. And he made her look like a fool because she thought she was dealing with a politician that's just like her. And that was her massive misstep. And so, yes, it's so ironic that he brings up that thing, because my own patients, I mean, as recently as a week or two ago, one of my patients who's in her 80s now, she literally said, well, he tells it like it is, doesn't he? And she don't know her rear end from a hole in the ground. But she loves that quality about Trump. And it's like he's capitalizing on her, her distrust of the government, her, the system ain't, system's rigged against us, blah, blah, blah. This, what it could be just a function of ignorance of most of the electorate, but he's capitalizing on people feeling like they aren't actually represented by the people that are in office. So that's what he capitalized on. Now we know that it's because of psychiatric disorder and cognitive, a neurological disease.
And that's the point here that he wrote in and wanted us to ask you.
Yes.
Basically, we got the worst combination of timing, health, and a failing political system that primed voters for significant change. And he came forward with that populist message, and in that way that you've just described. It's wild.
Yes. It's the populist appeal. And it's so ironic, though, because you could not find a person who was more in it for themselves.
Sure, and look at his Billionaires Boys Club of a cabinet. I mean, it's the elite of the elite. So There you go. People can find you across all the platforms. We'll link under this video to your stuff. I love talking to you. You're such a smart guy, and you've got this other superpower, which is sort of decoding the medical side and the psychology as it's informed by the medical side of Donald Trump. So thanks, Adam. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, man. Talk soon.
The Mark Thompson Show.
He's pretty great, and I hope you enjoyed that. Adam will be back. He's a friend of the show. Thank you for being here. Smash the like button, all that stuff you do on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. It helps us in the world of the
with your iron
algorithms or whatever the deal is on YouTube. A quick word and then the Culture Blaster.
The Mark Thompson Show.
My quick word is about Zellman's Minty Mouth. You can probably tell from wherever you are that even though I drink coffee as though it were my job, my breath is minty fresh. Yes. And I really can only point to one thing. It is Zellman's, Z-E-L-M-I-N-S, tiny capsules, huge results. Outside of the capsule is a powerful mint. And it gives you that fresh taste in your mouth. But it's the inside of the capsule. These are tiny capsules. Again, you swallow the capsule, and in your stomach, the parsley seed oil interacts with that in your stomach and helps to neutralize the odors that cause bad breath. Seems like a basic concept, but it's really revolutionary. Zellmans.com, you use Mark T at checkout, you get 15% off. Try it for yourself. See if it doesn't work. We use it at night, and then in the morning, it helps knock down morning breath. Z-E-L-M-I-N-S, Zellmans.com. I take 3 at a time. Use our discount code Mark T, 15% off. Zellmans.com.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Thank you, everyone, for staying here through what has been a great few conversations. We met the boys, Michael and Mo, Adam, our normal lunacy with Kim, Albert, who has said we will do a Mark's Madness, so stay tuned. We will have some version of it. And now we get a guy who goes to the movies and he sees the subtitled obscure films and he sees the mainstream Marvel DC Universe films. The Star Trek, the sci-fi, the downers, the depressing movies, the horror films that he loves. He's a remarkable guy with eclectic taste. He is the wonderful Culture Blaster who comes and goes on a rainbow. Michael Snyder, everyone. Culture Blaster, you are a one of a kind. Welcome.
We've got it all for you, too, today, Mark. We really do. Hey, and it's the spring equinox, the first day of spring 2026.
Yes, it is. That's great knowledge that you are aware of that.
But with all the strife in the world today, it feels awfully equinoxious. Maybe it's just me. But,
I get it. I get it. Yes.
I got to say, to countermand the bad juju, I've been listening to the awesome debut album by LA-based tech pop duo Hote and Freddie, whose 80s-infused song Dance the Pain Away has been my go-to track for weeks and kind of a cure-all while I'm listening to it. I know the world outside is conspiring against us. Or
Dance the Pain Away, it's
oh,
called?
God, it's so good. Anyway, before we get to things, the Oscars came and went. We do cover film here and TV. And
Although you do not approve of the Oscars, as I recall.
I don't. And I got to say, this year, flaccid monologue from Conan O'Brien. Kimmel, to me, Jimmy Kimmel, better MC. There was one clever skit, the Casablanca one with Conan as Rick and Sterling K. Brown as Sam at the piano. Very funny. Those I expected to win. They said briefly last week. They won, and good for them. And for once, the in memoriam was tasteful and moving.
Wow. Culture Blaster didn't like it all, but he liked some of it. Sinners really walked away with a lot of it. Culture Blaster.
And as I said, that and the One Battle After Another movie, Paul Thomas Anderson's film, those they were the big winners, and grateful for that at very least. Although, again, as you and I said, competitions like this in the arts are baloney.
Culture Blaster, CC Ryder asks you, how does Snyder pick the films he reviews? Some are very obscure. Is he paid to review these films?
I am not.
No.
How dare you? Although, let me reach out to the Remarkables and let you know that for $1, I will do whatever you say for 1 week. So
Seriously?
send that money to Mark and then ticket it for me. Look, let's get down to films. And if you want to get glib about it, the lead review here is Project Hail Mary, and it's kind of Interstellar meets E.T. But this science fiction adventure is much more than an imitative hybrid. It has a vibe of its own. It starts in media res as the action is happening. With Ryan Gosling's reluctant astronaut Ryland Grace waking up on a spaceship in flight and not knowing where he is. So a little mystery there. Grace is actually a science teacher who was roped into a world-saving and probable suicide mission to a nearby star, which is, of course, I don't know, light years away from our blue marble. And he's the only survivor of the skeleton crew that's on this voyage. Earth's sun is falling victim to energy-eating organisms that consume electromagnetic radiation and are draining the sun, which would mean a civilization-ending ice age in a matter of decades. So there's an alarm here. And the star where Grace is heading seems immune to the organism, so he's going to go there on a one-way journey to learn why and radio his findings back to Earth and hopefully save us. That's
right. So it's a one-way mission, though. He's risking his life. I mean, he's sacrificing his life.
It's some sad stuff when you think about it. On the way, he encounters this thoroughly alien ship, and he learns that the sole denizen of that vessel, which is
a hot woman.
No, it's an ambulatory pile of rocks, and it's on a similar mission to save its world. He nicknames this creature Rocky, by the way. Oh, the genius of it. Anyway, despite their radical differences, they manage to communicate with one another, and a star-spanning bromance is born, and that's the nut here. And to say more would be to undermine it, other than to suggest that I thought it was a really lovely piece of work.
Wow.
Project Hail Mary was directed by the Spider-Verse team of Phil Lord and Christopher Miller and written by Drew Goddard, the guy behind High Potential, hit show on ABC right now. And he adapted the 2021 novel Project Hail Mary, which was written by Andy Weir. And in addition to Gosling, the movie features the award-winning German actress Sandra Hüller, who was in Zone of Interest and Anatomy of a Fall. Two of the best foreign films.
She's really good.
She's fantastic.
What's her name again?
Sandra Hüller. Huller with an accent over the U. She's the chief scientist overseeing the mission back on Earth, who basically pushes Gosling's character into going.
Wow.
And there's also, I got to admit, the most lovable pile of rocks you've seen since Ben Grimm, the Thing of the Fantastic Four, this little creature. Okay, for all the science fiction trappings and the spectacular cutting-edge special effects, which, to be honest, are increasingly commonplace, but look phenomenal in IMAX, it's Gosling and his relationship with the otherworldly creature that give Project Mary warmth, gravitas, and wit that elevate it above other outer space escapades. I mean, at times it actually has the feel of a buddy comedy.
Oh, wow.
And if I have any quibbles, they're primarily regarding the medical nuances of a years-long coma that Grace is in to enable him to make the trip, and any clarity about the temporal aspects of a flight to another solar system, how it impacts a human traveler. All that stuff was kind of glossed over in the script.
Yeah, you got to kind of forgive some of that stuff, Culture Blaster.
Yeah, you got the hand wavium, Mark.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, as time goes, I thought this somewhat lengthy 2 hours and 36 minutes that it took me to watch Project Hail Mary was well spent.
Well, this somewhat lengthy 6 minutes that you spent talking about it has been money of time well spent. But it's time to move on, Culture Blaster.
That's exactly what we're doing. It's in theaters now,
Okay.
Mark. Samara Weaving stars in Ready or Not, Here I Come. I believe she's from Australia. Wonderful actress, plays an American believably. This is the sequel to the wild horror comedy Ready or Not, which was about a woman who marries into a wealthy family and learns that she has to survive game night at their mansion to enjoy a life of luxury. So what ensues is this riotous, bloody version of hide and seek with satanic undertones. Anyway, Ready or Not 2 picks up minutes after Ready or Not, ends with a bloodied Grace as the only survivor and inheriting her late husband's fortune. And almost immediately, we meet Grace's estranged sister, who gets caught up with Grace in the next deadly high-stakes game, which is to be played for control of more than an inheritance. The stakes are about global control and something far more sinister. So you'll see some recognizable characters in this thing as it plays out. To truly enjoy Ready or Not 2, I think you should see the first one, but a friend who accompanied me to the screening really got a kick out of it, despite having not seen the better first film. All that said, this is a raucous, pretty damned funny mix of horror and comedy, wherein the game of hide and seek has deadly implications for that one player. And in this case, with the sister on board, 2 players. You know that phrase, the most dangerous game, man, the most dangerous game?
Yes,
well,
of
that's
course.
what's going on. There's the hunt opens up a little bit. This was directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette, who co-directed the original Ready or Not and Abigail, the vampire film, and some Scream movies. And it's written by Guy Busick and the incredibly prolific Ryan Murphy, who co-wrote Scream films, Abigail, and the original Ready or Not. In other words, with Weaving returning as Grace, they brought the mainstays of the gang back together, and it pays off. Yeah, you know, it was damned entertaining and grisly fun. Quick note, newcomers to the free-for-all include Catherine Newton as Grace's sister Faith, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and Sean Hatosi as the power-mad daughter and son of the most powerful man in the world, played by David Cronenberg, the director.
Oh,
And
that's wild.
Elijah Wood is the lawyer overseeing the game.
Wow,
I enjoyed this. You know,
a lot of high-profile appearances.
it's in theaters. Moving on, and quickly, I have to say my favorite film of the week is Toe. And Toe is based on a true story that is far too close to home in our current economy and national climate. And Toe also gives Rose Byrne another expansive role to blow us away after her bravura Oscar-nominated lead performance in If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. Toe is all about a real woman named Amanda Ogle, played by Byrne. She lives in her Toyota Camry on the streets of Seattle. She's looking for work. She doesn't particularly want to live out of her car. She's, her daughter is miles away with her ex-husband, and she doesn't see the daughter. She's heartbroken about that. And I have to say, it gets worse for her because while she's at a job interview, her car is stolen and then towed and not returned to her. And she tries to get it back, and it's so expensive to get the car back from the towing company. And in fact, she wasn't illegally parked. The car was stolen and then left somewhere and towed.
Wow.
And her battle to get restitution, to get her car back, is the core of this movie. And it's unbelievably powerful.
Does she get it back?
I don't want to reveal. Look, you know what? This is as I said, heartbreaking, frustrating, and very real regarding the consequences of homelessness, as well as the sheer evil of companies that profit off those who have little or no resources.
I agree.
And the civic structures and strictures and contracts that give companies power to do this. horrifying.
No,
Look,
it's terrible.
I blame you.
Ultimately,
No,
it's
it's not my fault,
uplifting.
Emily.
It's uplifting, but it's a difficult road to traverse. It's directed by Stephanie Lang. She does a great job. The screenwriters are on point here: Jonathan Casey and Brant Boyven, and her supporting cast. Among the people in the movie, Octavia Spencer as the kind woman but firm woman running the women's shelter, where our heroine has to, sleep if she can. Corbin Burnson as the bastard lawyer on the other side, representing the towing company. Dominic Sessa as a noble lawyer trying to help her. And among the homeless women staying at the shelter, Ariana DeBose and Demi Lovato are standout actors playing the roles. It's a good film. It's a very good film, and it is in select theaters. I hope your theater is selected. Let's wrap up.
Well, first I want to note that Sausalito Vicky, you know where Sausalito is, don't you, Michael? Right over the bridge in San Francisco into Marin County.
You used to live there.
I used to live there. You guys take the bitter edge off the news. Thank you, says Sausalito Vicky. And
Happy to
thank
do
you,
so.
Culture
Big
Blast.
shout out.
So, Mr. Burton, directed by Mark Evans, who did the fun action film with Charlize Theron, The Old Guard on Netflix, dramatizes the true story of a young Welshman named Richard Jenkins, whose acting abilities were recognized and nurtured by a high school teacher, played here by Toby Jones of Indiana Jones, Captain America Winter Soldier, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. He's in the latest season of Hijack. Anyway, this high school teacher is of the last name Burton, and this is the name that Jenkins would eventually adopt. This is about the early days of Richard Burton and, how he got out of a Welsh coal mining town and who helped him along the way. It's the sort of Tweedy period drama that the Brits do so well, only this time it's done to deliver this slice of early days bio about, this young Welshman in the middle of World War II who would go on to become one of the world's great actors, the stentorian-voiced Richard Burton, and about that relationship he had with the secondary school teacher who mentored and inspired him. Oh, that this too solid flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve
That's not a bad impression.
into a dew. It's an impression of somebody.
Yeah, but it's evocative of him.
Of Burton. Anyway, it's pretty well done. It's not great. We've kind of been here before in ways, but it's a story that I don't think a lot of people know about a very famous and renowned actor of the 20th
Does he meet
century.
Elizabeth Taylor in the movie? John Watson is asking.
Toby Jones does double duty as Elizabeth Taylor. No, he doesn't meet Elizabeth Taylor. It's in select theaters, and Mr. Burton is streaming on demand.
Wow. A lot going on there. Is there time for one more, or do I have to kick out the Culture Blaster?
I can jump into something really, really fast because it's something
I'd
I
say
like.
do it very quickly.
Vampires of the Velvet Lounge is
I love the title.
It's a crazy comedy horror film that's not as funny or as well done as the Ready or Not movies, but I had a certain pleasure about it. It's set in Savannah, Georgia, which has a spooky, haunted vibe that suggests it's kind of, the New Orleans of Georgia. There are hot vampire babes led by the legendary and notorious centuries-old vampire queen Elizabeth Bathory. They work out of an absinthe bar. They reach out to potential victims online. They lure them to the bar, which is called the Green Fairy, because that's the nickname for absinthe, and they get them drunk and go for the neck. Anyway,
wow.
There's a cast
Seems like a good plan.
The cast of genre regulars from film and TV and indie movies, including Mina Suvari as the lead vampire.
Wow.
She's from American Beauty. You may remember her. Deacon Lockman, the great Stephen Dorff, who's done some outstanding work.
He's having a nice late inning rally
in movies. And you even get Tom Berenger and Tyrese Gibson. Look, this is clearly meant as a horror comedy like last week's Scared to Death, but more gory and more over the top than funny. There's a lot of smirking and winking at the camera, deliberately cheesy. If this sounds like your jam, it is in select theaters, but sounds more like something you might want to watch at home.
The Culture Blaster has served up some real juicy ones. Vampires of the Velvet Lounge. You just heard him talk about that crazy comedy horror film set in Savannah, Georgia, with all of those. But he was sort of feeling like it's okay, not as good as another film that he reviewed this week, Ready or Not 2. But I'm taking note that you think it's streamable in a few weeks or whatever. Been then a nice way to take it in that way.
Total junk food, seriously.
Mr. Burton, about the early days of Richard Burton, he liked it. Thought it was interesting. Thought it was well performed. He liked Mr. Burton. Tow is the moving story about a woman who lives in her Toyota Camry and looking for work. And while she's looking for work, her car stolen and then towed, trying to get the car back, of course, and the companies that prey on people who have no means to rescue things like, in this case, this towed car from the system. It's heartbreaking, and it's a true story. And Tow is recommended by the Culture Blaster.
Very much so.
Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. It's the sequel to the wild horror comedy Ready or Not. Ready or Not 2, Here I Come leaves, picks up where the other movie left off. Bloody Grace has inherited her family's money. She now has to play a game for much more. It's a grisly game, I'm sure, just as it was in Ready or Not, the original. Directed by the duo that directed the original and original writers. A lot of high-profile appearances. And yes, Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster, recommends Ready or Not 2, Here I Come.
I got a kick out of it, but I don't recommend it to you, nor Kim, nor anyone in Kim's extended family.
But he also said you should see Ready or Not before you see Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. And finally, and firstly, he reviewed Project Hail Mary. That's the Ryan Gosling offering. Earth's sun is falling victim to a reaction that threatens Earth in this selfless way in which Gosling leaves on a mission to the sun. He meets Rocky.
Yeah.
This bromance with a rock pile that moves. It's an odd alien force.
Very original.
But they bond. It's directed by the Spider-Verse people. Sandra Hüller, we know her. Ryan Gosling, we know him. You liked it.
Oh, yes. That and Tow are movies I can unabashedly say are worth watching.
Project Hail Mary is in theaters. Well, Culture Blaster, you've done it all, and you've done it in a timely manner. We're up against a little bit of time restraints and constraints today, so I want to thank you for operating within them.
You're very welcome. This is truly Mark's madness, trying to cram all this show into a limited space. But no, we're good. And I hope to be back next week with more goodies. And I send love to all the Remarkables and you and Kim and of course, Albert.
Find Michael Snyder at thevoicesf.org if you want to read about him, thevoicesf.org. He is the great Culture Blaster. He comes and goes on a rainbow. The Culture Blastering Michael Snyder, everyone.
So long, everybody.
Wow, what a job was done. The Culture Blaster, not always one with the economy of words, was able to get it in today.
Yeah, he did a good job.
Sometimes he pads his part, Kim, is what I'm saying. But didn't do that today. You really seem to respect the time constraints.
Why are you yelling?
Tony Ladowdy with a $5 super chat and a big shout out to you, Tony Ladowdy.
Big shout out.
Trump's actions in Iran are like using a machete for open surgery rather than a scalpel. Yeah, I think that and all the metaphors alongside it apply. Thank you, Tony, for the super chat. Louise says, greetings from Palm Desert, everyone. Here for a couple of Pink Martini shows. Oh, that'll be fun. Mark just played back yesterday's show. So angry, so passionate. You two, Metallica, and PJ do great work when angry. You rock. Thank you, Luis. Wow.
Big shout
Big
out.
shout out to you. A lot of people, I don't usually lose but I guess I kind of just got a little passionate about it. And that's a video. You can find it if you want to check it out. Luis also says,
Big shout out.
Ironic that a draft-dodging coward from a family who has never served in this country calls out anyone as cowards, especially our allies who support us. Yeah, I mean, Trump has no high ground when it comes to calling people out for military service or anything to do with the military. I mean, I can't believe the guy's in charge of the military. But then again, I can't believe Pete Hegseth's in charge of the military, and he has actually served. Wes in Florida says, okay, enough of the sad money stories. Take my money. My poor buildings might miss a meal, but you should eat instead of them.
Oh, bulldogs, yeah.
Wow.
Big shout out.
Well, thank you, Wes. Cousin Erie, president says nothing scares him. Bilateral amygdala destruction is the psychological condition whereby a person can't feel fear, a problem for the whole world. Wow, that's a really chilling. It's fitting that it comes from Cousin Erie, because it is an eerie feeling. Thank you for the $10
shout
super
out.
chat. And some maybe cold facts. Almost forgot my donation today, says Glenn B. Love you guys.
Big shout out.
Thank you, Glenn B. Love you back. I take your love and I add my love and then I send it back to you. It's a package of love is my point. Well, I could stay all day, but sadly we cannot. Mark rarely has been compared to Metallica, says Rita. It's true. You will not hear a lot of comparisons.
Which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Exactly. For those about to rock, we salute you, says True Tech. We have a big week of guests coming through next week. JL Covan will be here, I believe, next week. Or sometime soon. I think it's next week. Yeah, and there's a lot going on next week. I don't have the list of guests in front of me, but I think you'll be very, very happy. I also want to thank everybody who came through this week. It was a really great week, and I want to thank you for the support and sharing videos and going to our Facebook account and doing that thing where you become friends with us or whatever the hell it is. I don't really understand Facebook, but we're brand new and we appreciate your support. There's a link under this video. And now,
I'm Shadow Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kim, for your help this week. Thank you, Albert and Tony.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
Out of time. Have a great weekend. Hope to see you Monday. Bye-bye.